Love the commitment to the finger guns there.
Oh, it's not fair. I was holding the laugh in so well at the
You know,
beginning.
you know I wasn't going to let you get away with it. Thomas Vanko on the play. Swamp go.
Ooh, a nice Aaron Macer from Webb.
Little foil retro frame.
Oh, yeah. I can't help but appreciate that sort of stuff, you know? Aaron Mesa in particular, near and dear to my heart.
Maybe a turn 1 Guide of Souls met by Fatal Push. So Vanko making use of that black mana after all.
That Fatal Push is Japanese and foil. These players are styling. I love the expressive elements that come in Magic these days, especially, you know, this is the Spotlight Secret Lair, but the way that you are able to say, no, this is the version I like. I'm kind of getting to express myself through my own cards is really cool.
Huge fan of the way that Magic allows self-expression. You see here a retro frame Godless Shrine, some stylistic consistencies for Webb. Eldrazi Temple go on turn 2 for Vanko. Looks like we're gearing up to a Thought-Knot Seer to me. Could also have a Orcish Bowmasters at the ready.
Or Kozilek's Command.
Ooh, baby.
Kindred instant.
That being discounted by Eldrazi Temple feels like cheating. Here is a Johnny on turn 2.
God, I really hope Vanko is politely just letting Webb get the token out just to exile it. Yes! Yes! Oh my god, yes!
There is Kozilek's Command. Get rid of that cat. Just wanted to confirm you had it in the box, but you can put it right back.
Very honestly, just could not be more cordial.
Scry 1 draw cards going to be the other mode on our X=1 Kozilek's Command. Giving it a think on the scry, decides to put it on the bottom. As we go back Vanko's way.
All right, let's see if that Thought-Knot Seer that you're predicting comes to fruition.
Land number 3 is Caves of Koilos. That's 4 mana. That is Thought-Knot Seer. This is taking me back.
Oh, yeah. Caves of Koilos Thought-Knot Seer is just... It's the type of thing I personally was not a huge respecter of back in the day, but I think the way that it is positioned in the tournament and the fact that Vanko is really just finding a way to incorporate it into a traditional deck looks really nice here, rather than being the all-in Wasteland Strangler thing.
The holdings for Lee Webb are going to be Marsh Flats, Fatal Push, second copy of Ajani, Ocelot Pride, and Flage, Titan of Nature's Fury. Gonna give this one a think. This hand a little bit redundant on threats, so you gotta see, you know, how much do I care about that removal spell, and Vanko says a lot, as the Fatal Push is the pick.
Yeah, in general, this is the spot where it basically does just come down to if Vanko is trying to trade off the Thought-Knot Seer for the sake of just reducing the card quality Webb has access to, or actually ride this Thought-Knot Seer as a threat.
Mishra's a bobble, and then a pass, so we go back over to Lee Webb. Has the option to second a Johnny and get a Planeswalker, but got to think about how much this Thought-Knot Seer pressures that kind of thing.
There's also a point where Vanko holding the bobble is showing respect to the fact that Webb's first land was Godless Shrine. Not wanting to play into maybe a Thoughtseize or something.
Yeah, playing around discard.
Right, Vanko could have actually gotten a faster look at whatever Webb is definitely drawing this turn instead, but again, paying respect to the Black Splash.
Little respect to a theoretical Orcish Bowmaster, too. Going to be Marsh Flats, fetching up a basic Plains for Webb, down to 16. Going to play that second Ajani. This time, we're going to keep the cat token in play and transform the Ajani, get a Planeswalker online.
Going through a bit of a transformation. Now this begs the question what Webb's one-drop is. It is that Ocelot Pride.
Yeah, good use of mana on the turn. The Ajani is going to add another cat token to the table. Theoretically checking the potential attacks on that Thought-Knot Seer. Passes back. Now we see the Mishra's Bauble taking a look at top card of Webb's deck. And over to Vanko. Draw for Bauble. Draw for turn.
Hey, one good bauble deserves another. Right off the top.
Prismatic Vista is the land here. Has access to that sort of scry adjacent trick with the bauble if he so chooses. Gonna Thought Seize first. Get as much information as you can. The card picked up for the turn was Galvanic Discharge. So is that and Flage are the cards in hand.
Nice one drop to have. This Flage also does kind of mean that Webb has the ability to gain life next turn even without going to combat, which is pretty attractive.
Yeah, could trigger that Ocelot Pride that way. Pretty interesting consideration given that you know there's no fourth land for Webb right now, and if he draws one to escape the Flage, it would have to be a red source, and actually takes the Flage.
Okay, yeah, so it goes after the Flage. I believe also a 5th card needed at this point in the graveyard, but Vanko does have a few main deck ways of exiling cards. There is a copy of Graveyard Trespasser hiding out, as well as those Emperor of Bones.
Gonna fetch with that Prismatic Vista. Down to 17 goes Vanko.
Also, I can't not mention that that is a signed Japanese foil Thoughtseize. Whew! Whew! Be still my beating heart.
I'm pretty into the Expedition Prismatic Vista, too.
It looks nice.
It does.
Yeah.
Nihil Spellbomb.
Ooh, the 1 for Urza Saga? Not bad.
That's a nice answer to that Flage. As the graveyard gets exiled, and Vanko will draw a card.
I love drawing a card.
Among my favorite game actions.
It's up there, for sure.
It is criminal. They let you get away with that every turn. Here's Mishra's Bauble.
Pithing Needle!
Yeah, another one of in the main deck because of that Urza Saga package. Yeah, that Ajani, that Planeswalker, that's offline.
Player's kind of at a stalemate.
Webb's going to draw for turn. We know the card in hand was Galvanic Discharge. No energy at this point in the game. Pickup was Bloodstained Mire. So having that way to answer the Flage, that already, you can see it mattered.
All right. Webb going ahead and fetching now.
Gonna be a Raucous Theater. Get a little Surveil on. I like getting this information before you decide to make the play.
Right, this is the spot where you're thinking of maybe attacking and having a cat and the discharge team up to go after this Thought-Knot Seer.
Right. Taking a look at that top card. It's going to go to the graveyard. It was a Ragavan.
Feels like Webb is looking for something specific if you're bidding Ragavan.
Yeah, there's something to that. The whole team comes across. Vanko is going to bobble Webb. Now Vanko knows the top card of Webb's deck. Webb does not.
That's nice. This way, Vanko actually knows what it is Webb's going to get
Right.
off of this discharge, assuming Vanko chooses to make the block.
Got to figure if any block happens, it's going to be on the cat token because of the first strike on the Pride. Doesn't feel great, though.
Right, it's so tough. Where normally you'd be happy taking 5, crack back at the Ajani with the Thought-Knot Seer just to maybe get it off the table. But this Ocelot Pride is going to start churning out chump blockers.
So looks like we do see a block on the cat token. The discharge is going to trade, get that Thought-Knot Seer off the table.
That means Webb has 1 energy left over.
Yes. Gets to draw that card. Gains a life from the Pride. So there's going to be a token forthcoming. Sadly, the Pithy Needle holds off the Ajani. So I guess we're a little bit off the City's Blessing anyway, but...
Only a little.
Just a little, yeah.
8.
There There's the 1/1 cat. So we go back to Vanko.
Token, 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 token. 1, 1, 1, 1.
Draw for bobble, draw for turn. You know, I really value somebody who can remember their Mishra's Bobbles triggers. So great job by Vanko so far, as here is yet another Mishra's Bobble.
It is actually kind of funny where these bobbles have mostly just drawn other bobbles.
I have demonstrated a loop.
Right, Vanko is saying, look, someday I'm going to draw a real card, and you are going to regret what you are doing right now.
And the bobble was it on that turn as Vanko passes back. Lee Webb picks up another Ajani. All right, now we are blessed. And here is the attack. 4 points coming across. And that just works. Vanko down to 10. Webb up to 17. Has gained some life for that Ocelot Pride. Really going to work.
All right.
City's Blessing.
Sink.
1/1 cat token. 1/1 cat token. 2/1 cat token. Is that all?
Yeah, at this point I was like, oh, okay, cool. We got, like red cat, white cat. We're gonna Dr. Seuss this up together.
And Vanko just got a few lands in hand. And game number 1 is going to go to Lee Webb, a Mardu Energy. Taking game 1 over Mono Black mid-range.
Yeah, that looked pretty nice at the beginning for Vanko. Flooded out a little bit, but also I do think that game spoke to Webb kind of having an understanding of how to really play with his cards. In general, like bidding the Ragavan, for example, is something that stuck out to me as Webb identifying, okay, that I don't think that's what this matchup is going to be about a lot of the time. I want to find some of my heavier hitters, and it did pay off for him.
Yeah, Thought-Knot Seer, not bad pound for pound, but something notably absent in the main deck for this Mono Black mid-range deck is something kind of sweepery, something haymakery. This players look to the sideboards. Is there anything in Vanko's sideboard that could maybe help dig him out of positions like this?
So looking over at the sideboard, I see Toxic Deluge is the first card that sticks out to me. I know that one can be a bit fraught at times, especially against a Flage deck, but so much of what you're seeing on Webb's side of the table is 1 toughness or 2 toughness creatures. So I think that's one that looks pretty nice in this situation.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And then for Lee Webb on Mardu Energy, I have to imagine that Mono Black mid-range, the Eldrazi deck, this Eldrazi deck, probably not on the radar configuring this sideboard, but are there some cards that play here?
Yeah, Wrath of the Skies is the 1-card game plan against the 1-card game plan in Urza's Saga. It just kind of mops everything up from it. Showdown of the Scalds. I think Graveyard Trespasser is a card you could also make a case for. In general, I think you're going to see a lot of what has really been a hallmark of these Thoughtseize decks in the history of Modern is they cut their Thoughtseizes a bunch post-board because it's a pretty bad top deck. I'm not sure if that will end up being the case here. Sometimes a player thinks, well, there are a couple of cards I just can't really answer that well if it hits the battlefield, and if a player thinks Thoughtseize is the best way for them to answer that, I can see it staying in. But traditionally speaking, cutting those, bringing in your cards, quote-unquote, for the grindy matchup that are good top decks is kind of a sure bet.
Yeah, Webb certainly didn't need a Thoughtseize in that game. You mentioned Wrath of the Skies as a really nice answer to Urza's Saga. Any love for Wear Tear?
I could see that one. I think it's a little bit riskier. It's really only good against the card Urza's Saga. It ends up being tough if your opponent goes, say, Thoughtseize into Nethergoyf into Thought-Knot Seer or something like that, and you just have a Wear Tear in your hand, and you go, well, I don't know what I can do here.
So there is another Stone Rain in the sideboard, but it only comes up as a Stone Rain sometimes.
All right, indicate it.
I'm hoping to see some Vindicate.
Hey!
We're having a lot of fun here on Magic Spotlight Secret Lair, part of the Spotlight series, and if you are enjoying watching the event, maybe it's time you made it out to one of these events yourself. We have one coming up in August. That's going to be SCGCon Orlando. That is Spotlight Series Planetary Rotation. This is going to be commemorating the standard rotation with the release of Edge of Eternity, so it's going to be a fresh standard format.
Yeah, I think these are some of the most fun events you really can play are the big, say, 15-round events whenever rotation and standard has just happened. I know these are the events personally back when in my competitor days. This is when I would play 15 rounds of Swiss and play against like 12 different decks with even the repeats only being singular repeats. It's a lot of fun in a lot of ways. It just feels like really I don't want to say honest magic because it's not like the alternative is dishonest, but it just feels very pure and that everyone is kind of building their own decks, just bringing something new and fresh to the table. And I really, really just love the way that it captures that feeling of being on the playground and just going, oh, that's sweet. I love it. That's so cool.
Really highlights and rewards player creativity. I love that.
Yes.
That's coming up August 29th through the 31st. Check out details on that and other SCGCon events at starcitygames.com/SCGCon. These players are shuffling up here for game number 2.
And I think that last game really shows a lot of the strength of the energy core in general, right? As those are all cards that can be strong early on and they're a little bit above rate, but the fact that they are able to run away with a game if they are left unchecked for 1 or 2 turns just can't be ignored.
Right. Thomas Vanko will be on the play again as players look at their 7-card hands. Holdings look definitely playable on Vanko's side. Spread of some nice lands and some fatal pushes to keep the game in his favor early.
Yeah, I think those early copies of Fatal Push are just one of the things that Vanko really wants to be able to find here is leaving Webb with a 2-1 or something like that, or even a Ragavan in some cases, is going to be something that Vanko can power through pretty easily. It's just a matter of being able to check the Ajanis and Ocelot Prides of the world.
Vanko is just going to fire off that bobble on Webb. It draws for that as we go to Webb's turn 1. Webb will shock in Sacred Foundry, and here is Guide of Souls. I imagine that one's not long for this world.
That one's tough. I could actually see it go either way, especially into the graveyard.
That's the way I see it going.
Yeah,
yes.
of course.
So we go over to Vanko. You see an Urza Saga in the holding. That will be the land for turn.
Turn 2 Urza Saga is just one of those things that I always think of as just, it feels like a blanket when you put it on the table. You just go, okay, no matter what, I'm going to play a game.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to participate in this game of Magic. I'm going to figure it out, and it's all details from here.
Yeah, just lining up to making your 3rd land drop. At least I can make a construct next turn.
Right.
I have game actions to take. So we go back to Lee Webb. There was Nile Spellbomb also added to the table for Vanko, as Webb is going to crack a Marsh Flats.
Okay, and it looks like Webb does have those wear tears in the deck.
A Stone Raid appreciator.
I mean, it would have been really nice here.
Oh, yeah.
That's something where, especially if Webb had just gone, say, fetch land, go, and then Vanko plays Urza Saga, and you just get to spend your turn 1 blowing up your opponent's land, and while you're up a card by virtue of being on the draw, unbelievable exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, with the first chapter 1 trigger on the stack. Yeah, I don't know if I could resist that. I could.
Yeah. I'm already buying.
Okay,
you can stop selling.
Yeah, right. Stop.
Here's Dreams of Steel and Oil for Webb. Take a look at Vanko's holding. We have 2 Fatal Push, and it looks like 2 lands. None of these are artifacts or creatures. But you sure can exile that Mishra's Bauble from the graveyard. Some 1-drop, couple choices for Webb there. Lands on Ocelot Pride and passes the turn.
Notably, I think that might have been a Phyrexian Tower as one of the lands in Vanko's hand.
Ocelot Pride eats a Fatal Push, and we go back to Vanko. Urza Saga goes to Chapter 2. Battlefield is stable. I believe you are correct. That is the Phyrexian Tower there.
Oh. It's non-English in foil. It looks so nice. Oh, that looks so nice. I love the foiling on that art in particular, too. Just like the orb floating in the tower.
Land number 3 for Lee Webb is Arena of Glory. But no action. We are going to see that Urza Saga go to work. Here is a construct for Vanko. Already at 2-2. Nile Spellbomb. Doing a lot of work today.
I mean, it's not bad in this spot either, right? This is a spot where next turn, assuming Vanko gets to do the thing, where activate it, get another token, search up another artifact. Those are 4/4s. That's a real clock.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Well, there's wear tear. Okay, okay. We're going to fuse that one. Definitely targeting Urza's Saga. And it's a choice between the Construct and Nile Spellbomb. Looks like goes for the Spellbomb. Denying the card. I like that. Does exile Webb's Graveyard.
Get Billy Mays on the phone. It wears his, it tears his.
Now that Construct, just a lowly 1/1. Eldrazi Temple is the land for Vanko. It's like Inquisition of Kozilek. All right, we see Guide of Souls, Seasoned Pyromancer, and Flage in hand. All of these cards are castable.
Pretty unlikely Guide of Souls is the get.
That tracks for me. Seasoned Pyromancer seemed to be the standout. Vanko agrees.
Yeah, this is a spot where it's pretty clear Vanko is just saying, you know what, I actually would love if you spent 3 mana's worth of a turn on that Flage.
Right. Both players also know about another Fatal Push waiting for that guide.
As Webb gets to have fewer and fewer cards in hand as well, Seasoned Pyromancer does just draw cards.
Yes. Ooh, really significant pickup for Webb. Plays that Guide of Souls, and then here is a Johnny Nakatl Pariah.
A little bit of life, a little bit of energy, a little bit of
cat.
kitty, a little bit of cat.
Going up to 2 energy, going up to 16 life. As we go back to Vanko.
Ooh, creature draw.
Nethergoyf. That's got some power and toughness. We got a sorcery, we got an artifact, we got an instant, we got an enchantment. Okay, good spread.
Little 5/6 situation.
1 mana 5/6 seems strong to me.
I was counting on my fingers, and yeah, you know, I agree with you.
It took all of them on my hand.
Right.
Webb picks up a plains, plays it. Here we see Flage. Presumably aimed at that construct, but maybe you go upstairs.
Really nice thing about this is it's notably the 3rd energy.
Yes. Guy's going to give an energy. Flage takes care of construct. Some more life coming Webb's way. Construct could have been sacked to the Phyrexian Tower. Seems like the game's a lot more about all of the other ways that Vanko's behind, though.
Yeah. It's definitely a spot where Vanko is just figuring out how to leverage the game pieces that he has that are able to play at the moment.
Right. There are not a lot of them.
That's how they get you.
Cat's going to attack. That's going to eat up the energy from that Guide of Souls. Going to fly in for 4 points.
In terms of playing with game pieces, picking up your energy die and moving it onto your thing is just so satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
I had 3, now I had 2.
Vanko to 16. They're just doing a little conversation. I think they're trying to figure out, there could be...
Maybe a life total discrepancy.
Yeah, that's how this reads to me. But they seem to have reached a amicable solution.
All right, Vanko down to 16.
As we go back, Vanko's way has just been holding on to this Fatal Push. Presumably is thinking maybe that has to go for this Flage if it comes back.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're at this spot I suspect Vanko is saying, okay, this is my last removal spell. I really have to make sure that I'm getting full value out of it, and maybe trying to set up a situation where Webb may say, try and transform an Ajani by casting another one or sacrificing this cat to something like a Goblin Bombardment. Less likely now, obviously, but that way you get the sacrificed creature as well as the Ajani, and Vanko has a little bit of life to play with to that end.
Yeah, that tracks. Cat's going to fly over again, Vanko to 12. And that Fatal Push is just the last card in Vanko's hand. So you do want to use it as best you can.
Right, we saw, I believe Vanko picked up another card, but we did not get a great look at it. It might have been a hand disruption spell.
Those have not looked too strong in this game, too.
Pretty tough.
On both sides.
Right, yeah, there is some of that dynamic going on where you do just need some amount of that.
Okay, well, here's that Ajani. This could be the window that you were talking about.
All right, so with the spell in the stack, goes ahead and Fatal pushes the original Ajani.
Yeah, so there's not going to be a Planeswalker here.
A little tough, and that's a spot where if you wait for Webb to legend roll one, you get the whole litter.
Right. Yeah, it does not transform immediately when the cat dies. You still get that trigger that you have to acknowledge, so that would have been a window to take care of both the Johnnies. All right, what can Vanko do to get out of this? It kind of feels like he's really drawing for those sideboard Toxic Deluge, right?
Okay, but Kozilek's command off the top.
That's not weak.
That's not bad. It also notably exiles instead of destroying.
Yes. And we might be in a situation where you have to / get to get that Flage out of the graveyard with the other mode.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. This is a spot where I can see, I think there are cases for a couple of different things. Attacking the battlefield makes a lot of sense to me. I think Vanko is starting to run a bit dry on life. But you can either overpay for the Kozilek's command for the sake of scrying a bunch, or you can go after Seasoned Pyromancer and Flage at the same time with the Graveyard Hate mode.
All right, so Webb is going to crack a Marsh Flats. I think a quick confirmation about cards in Graveyard with this on the stack. Vanko would like to not see this Flage escaped. Though a Surveillant here will force the action, and a Shadowy Backstreet is the find.
Ooh, especially with Arena of Glory on the table.
Yes.
Okay, and here, like you said, forcing the action from Vanko. Kozilek's command X equals 3.
The timing strongly suggests exiling the Flage from the graveyard is the play. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Giving a real think to what to do with the other mode. When you're this far behind, it makes a little bit of sense to me to maybe try to scry into Toxic Deluge, but also that Flying Cat needs to be answered quickly one way or the other.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I suspect I am more interested in scrying for a good card here, or a good couple of draws. I think Vanko needs more than one good draw step from this point, and I'm somewhat interested in trying to aim for that. That being said, you are definitely losing 4 life if you take that path, so I do have a lot of respect for going after the flying attacker.
And that is what Vanko does. Going to get 3 cards out of the graveyard as well. Flage among them.
And Seasoned Pyromancer, notably.
Ooh.
There's part of me that thought Webb might just get the untapped land and make 2 tokens from the graveyard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an option there. The Surveil paying off a little bit, though, as Arid Mesa is surveilled to the graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Kindred.
We got a 6/7 online. Right, Vanko's looking for a big one. Prismatic Vista is not it.
It's a big one for someone. Unfortunately, I don't think it's Vanko.
As Vanko passes the turn back to Webb. With only 2 energy, Webb does not immediately have good attacks, and this Thoughtseize was not a great draw And kind of like you sussed out, it's going to grab a Thoughtseize of Vanko's.
Not bad. It's definitely the phase of the game where, for an Inquisition of Kozilek or Dreams of Steel and Oil, casting it is somewhat free. You're at least getting a card in your yard, you're getting something out of it, and so on. Thoughtseize does make you lose life in a matchup that is about that.
Speaking of the matchup being about life, love this attack with the cat token here. What are you going to do, block? Give me a Planeswalker?
Right, exactly. This is the spot where Ajani would immediately replace the cat token, and now that Vanko doesn't have cards in hand, Webb knows the coast is clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be disastrous to block. Ajani transforms, get that cat token, get the third energy from the Guide of Souls. Vanko's going to fetch up that snow-covered waste. Maybe it's just a regular waste. Maybe it's a snow-covered swamp. Maybe I don't know what any of these cards look like.
Fun fact, Snow-Covered Waste, the first card in the MH3 file. Day one.
No shot I would have guessed that.
Day one. It's just when we're like, hey, we're pretty sure we want to try Eldrazi. Okay, well then we have to do Snow-Covered Waste. Obviously. Obviously. Like, you also need, like, for limited infrastructure reasons, you need colorless lands. That makes sense.
Right. Just another land here for Vanko. Is that an Urborg? It looks Urborg-y.
No, it's Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth.
Oh.
Not just Urborg.
I was thinking of just Urborg.
Yeah, not just Urborg. Unfortunately, Legends, not legal in Modern.
Not legal.
No. Ooh, Seasoned Pyromancer off the top for Webb.
That's a massive pickup.
Holy.
Guide of Souls still on the table. You know, it's only one body, but it's 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's a third energy. Okay. Speaking of huge.
Hello, Nurse.
That's Orcish Bowmasters in response.
How did this game go from nothing's happening to everything is happening?
2 cards picked up for Webb. We saw the first point from the Bowmasters go after Guide of Souls. We're going to clean that one up, and we have one more point to throw around.
And I do appreciate mopping up Guide of Souls. Vanko's at 7. So this is really the part of the game where all of a sudden Vanko really has to respect things that can pressure his life total.
Right. Ocelot Pride picked up from Webb, and notably that Pyromancer did gain a life. The Guide of Souls was still in play at that time.
Oh, wow.
And this looks like City's Blessing pretty easily here.
I would definitely assume so.
And now this attack with the cat is so good because it's not just a situation outlined before. There's now a City's Blessing Ocelot Pride online. So Vanko just has to take this.
Right. This Ajani will literally kill you because there's a red a red permanent on the battlefield.
Right. So as much as that Bowmaster was pretty nice for Vanko, I think the tides turned even more in Webb's favor this turn.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Whenever you are at even or it's kind of early in the game, the Bowmasters is great at contributing to a battlefield. In a spot like this, it isn't necessarily the best at getting you out of the hole whenever your opponent is going up real cards.
Thought Not Seer is the draw and the play for Vanko. There's no cards in Webb's hand.
Ooh. Oh, that's a combo.
Oh, yeah, Thought Not Seer, Orcish Bow. Oh, wow.
I have a feeling we're late to this party.
Yeah, I think so, too.
It feels like when we said those cards at the beginning of the match, back-to-back 5 or 6 times, maybe we should have, you know.
Yeah.
That's showbiz.
Right. We're just learning more for next time.
All right, this isn't the Rock You Theater. This is the Rock Us Theater, comrade.
Boo.
Unlucky. All right, well, on the other side, Webb, happy with what he sees on the top.
Scry to the top from being this far behind is... There's some cards that are immediately lethal. So could certainly be one of them.
Oh yeah, you see the Arena of Glory getting unsleeved, exerted, if you will.
Graveyard Trespasser with Ace. Okay. I would not have guessed that this was the card, but it's not weak.
It's daytime.
Yes. It was neither day nor night, and it is now day. Trespasser's going to exile, I imagine, a creature card. That's going to bump Vanko down to 4. We're going to see another one of those triggers when that Trespasser attacks.
Right, and each one of these also represents some life being gained.
Yes.
And look at this. This Nethergoyf, I believe, is going to get shrank pretty hard here.
So I haven't fully lined up attackers and blockers, but hasting that Trespasser, yeah, I assume that a sizable attack is coming in. The cats are pretty free.
It's really hard to block 0 of these cats, right? Which means that Ajani will probably transform. I think we're about to see lethal.
And lethal we do see. Lee Webb going to clean up over Thomas Vanko. Mardu Energy going to advance to 5-0. Thomas Vanko, though, still a good start to the tournament at 4-1 on Mono Black mid-range / Eldrazi.